From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter show about Star Wars, pop culture, and the ultimate adventure, life itself. I'm Ken Napzok, and welcome to the first ever episode of a new series I'm trying here. We are calling it Blank is Why We Love Star Wars. You see, a while ago, I wrote a book, Why We Love Star Wars, the great moments that built a galaxy far, far away. You can go to my website to get personalized copies, or you can just get it wherever you get books, but this isn't an advertisement for this silly little book. It is taking the spirit of that book and applying it to our love of Star Wars here on ForceCenter. We are normally joined, of course, by Joseph Scrimshaw and Jennifer Landa. But right now, today, because of, just Joseph's making a film, Jennifer's off living life, raising kids, studying in school. I'm I'm the nerd hanging out by himself today. But I couldn't have this conversation today without two guests. So, to help me discuss why Jar Jar Binks is why we love Star Wars are Scotty and Gerry from the Bombadcast, the Bombad podcast that makes everyone love, laugh, and live Star Wars. That's right. Here they are today. Scotty, Gerry, welcome to the show.
We're honored, bud. This
Yes.
is a privilege for us.
I love having you here. I've turned you into an IKEA catchphrase for your living room, but we're good. We're good. We're good.
So good. Ken, everyone else is off making, like you said, making films and doing wonderful things. You're here. And we were obviously doing nothing. So we're here too. So we're good. We're here.
That's not true. We're all loving Star Wars in our own way.
That's right. That's
our
right.
own way. So first of all, I just want, for those who maybe don't know you, I have loved watching you guys over the years. Explain in 9 sentences or less, or however long it takes, the ethos of the Bombadcast.
I'll go real quick, Gerry. Is that okay?
All right, go for it.
Okay,
it.
so for the Bombadcast, for the first time ever hearing that phrase, we are I would say, a lot of what we do is enjoy Star Wars at its most nuanced and niche. We do everything from reacting to obviously finding very strange lost media of Star Wars and enjoying that part of it. And we celebrate all things prequels and everything Star Wars, sequels, prequels, TV shows, animated, all of it, everything, the books, the comics, it's all celebrated at our channel. And most importantly, we don't take it too seriously, just like George didn't take Star Wars too seriously. And I think it's part of the mantra, it's part of the reason why we stay Bombad, is because we understand that Star Wars is meant to be fun. It's meant to be loved. And the things that we do not like, we usually don't discuss. What else, Gerry? Can you add anything else to that?
Well, I mean, you are fairly positive and stuff like that, but I will fight a man, or I will fight anyone. I will fight anyone for Ahmed Best.
That's true.
Yes. There is that.
Yes.
I would say, and we do all that Star Wars stuff. Then sometimes we watch an educational VHS about how to cook eggs, kids.
That's
so
right.
just come by and hang out with us sometime.
Every Thursday. Every Thursday.
One-stop shop for Star Wars fun. That's why I love hanging out with you guys, as I have over there a couple times. Alden and I, from any time, and with Ken and Alden, just popped over there for a great crossover episode. Check that out. But love having you here today. In the spotlight today on this series, Blank is Why We Love Star Wars. And that title just infers that there's so many things that can make us love Star Wars. It is a character. It is an actor. It is a moment. It is a sound. It is a score. It is a line of dialogue. It is an entire movie. It could be a genre of characters, too. But I wanted to start today big and bold with a character that has had, a complicated existence in the Star Wars fandom going on for 25 years. I myself have had a interesting, I'll say in a polite way, because at times I was a jerk about this character, but I came around not just begrudgingly, I came around with my full heart. And we're talking about Jar Jar Binks. Gerry, you mentioned Ahmed Best. He brought this character to life along with an entire team of absolutely creative and technical wizards at ILM to break ground with this character, to be the first kind of performance capture, motion capture kind of character, one of the many legacies of the Phantom Menace. He brought heart to a character that has always been loved by a lot of the fans, but was maligned so bad that it led to, of course, some infamous and tragic darkness around Ahmed Best, himself, his career. He fortunately has pushed through and has returned to the Star Wars galaxy, and I'm ready for Jar Jar Binks to return to the Star Wars galaxy as well, but that might come up here today. So before we go to my journey, Scotty, Gerry, I want to kick it to you and ask you and talk about the beginnings of your journeys. I won't reveal the ages. I also won't dox you both as well. But you are both in a generation or a half lower than me on Star Wars, which means your relationship with Jar Jar is already different. Gerry, how did yours begin, and where is it now?
So my relationship with Jar Jar again began when I got to go and see this wonderful movie. And I'll dox my age at that time. I was 12, and you can just
Right
do
there.
the math at home. You can do the math. I was, and like I said, George, what did he? I forget where it was when he said this, but he said sometime he's like, I made this for 12-year-olds, and stuff. And I was right there. I call it the George Lucas sweet spot, and your mileage may vary if you like that or not. But I mean, I was in love with it because I was already in love with so my folks got me, the Faces edition of the last release of the originals, right? Which as we know are clearly not the originals, because the original copies have not been anyway. There's been many editions over the years.
Yeah.
But the last time that they were without the special edition changes, then of course my parents take me to see every single special edition, and so I was primed. I was ready. I was ready to go. And man, when Jar Jar was on, I don't remember having any visceral reaction to Jar Jar in any way. I just remember thinking, hey, there's this cool character who's like this. I remember going wow, it's like a anthropomorphic amphibious dinosaur bunny duck. I kind of love this guy because I was a dinosaur kid,
sure.
Growing up. And I mean, who's not? But I mean, I was super into Jurassic Park and all that kind of stuff. And man, you just kind of add those elements. He's got those elements too. At least the creature design,
Yeah.
And I remember just being this is really cool. I can't believe we're getting a Star Wars movie nowadays. You've got the fighting, the lightsaber action is, it's more explosive. It's crazy. But just with Jar Jar, he was just Jar Jar, man. He was a part of the story. He was the guy who was, I could tell, a loving, well-meaning, character. Yeah. And I remember the time, let's see, when I graduated high school, I stayed away from a lot of, negativity around these films. Until
you weren't in the forums.
No, I wasn't I wasn't painfully online back then because, it was
harder.
We had one computer and it was in the freaking, dining room with everyone else.
And you still might be in the area where you're clogging up the phone. It's a little late for that, but it could be Ma, I'm trying to get Star Wars scoop. Hang up the phone.
So right. Yeah, you had to hold on, how to crank it up. You had to put the crank into the CPU and turn it around for a little bit to get it to start. It's crazy, kids. Every 10 miles you had to do that. But no, I spent a little bit the most I spent online was looking up I swore that I had found the script to Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, and that is but that's a story for another time. But I
do want to know that story. Not here now, but I will
tell. Yeah, we'll tell that later. But back to Jar Jar, and I didn't really know there was that much of a visceral hate for him until I got to my first job at the movie theater in Paragould, Arkansas, and I became friends with all the nerds who worked at the movie theater. Right, the guy I was really tight with the projectionists and stuff like that. And you know how projectionists.
Oh yeah, I worked at a movie theater for about 9 months. Those projectionists, they're the cool kids, man.
Right. It was because that's the crew you wanted to be on and stuff. But they had their thoughts about the prequels and stuff like that, which and it's basically it's not cool anymore. It's not cool. It was kind of dumb. Why would they do this? Why did they do X, Y, and Z when they should have done this thing that this guy on? Have you heard of YouTube? YouTube's a new thing. Have you heard of this? There's this guy on there who rewrote them and put Uncle Owen in it. Isn't that great? And it's just it was all kind of that, and and I mean, I remember kind of going, unfortunately for me, just who likes that stuff, for a little bit, for a while, because it changes secretly on the inside, just really I still love it. I still never really got why people were upset with that character so much. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I never quite got the vitriol and hatred for it personally. I mean, and I can see it from like a 55,000 foot view or whatever,
Yeah.
but like it was just one of those things where it never really caught on with me.
Yeah, I think we'll come back. I want to put a pin in that and not even try to explain my generation's perspective, but to dive into it. It's an interesting conversation because I'm like you. I get some of it, but obviously to say it went too far and all that stuff is part of the conversation too. But so basically, Miranda, you were the perfect age. You see the character. You're right there with you. You know, whereas like I was a little taken aback, and I know Joseph has said this before on the channel a lot of just the squeeze me joke. We're like, we're doing Wayne's World jokes here. You were just like, that's amazing. He said, "Squeeze me," like yeah. And it was as time goes on, society has a way. Film snobs, and I'm not even calling those people film snobs. It's your right to not like a lot of things, but there is that. It seems harmless to tear something down, and that was one of the lessons that I think this movie is a part of. And this character is at the forefront of the conversation. It is not as harmless as we thought, and there's a lot of folks who I think still think it's harmless and don't find the right ways to discuss it, and they trample underfoot not just the performance behind it and the product and the movies and the stories themselves, but the kids and the fans growing up who loved it. And on the other end of that, we have, on the lower end, I should say, Scotty, I don't mean to put you down in the basement. You're slightly younger. You're not quite goo gaga in your way through the film, but you probably saw him in a different light than even Jerry and I.
He was hilarious for me. I was 5. He was like the funniest guy in the world. He was like clumsy.
You're like this guy's killing it. This guy's killing it.
Well, you got to think too, when you're that little, the first thing you think of when you watch movies, oh, that's me. You know, you're the goofy little dude. And like for the longest time, every kid probably associated themselves with Luke, R2, or 3PO. No little kid like thought they were Han Solo. They wanted to be Han Solo, though they were never truly Han. No one's truly Han Solo.
I've been trying for 48 years.
Exactly. So Jar Jar, you could instantly go, I'm the goofy one. I'm the one that knocks things over with my favorite is the pit droid. Like that whole thing had me dying as a kid. And like the Eopie fart, like all these things that obviously are kind of crass if you look at it, and it's very George Lucas loves the Three Stooges, like really gimmicky, really slapstick. Like it all came out in that character, and you know, even 3PO has a little bit of that in the original trilogy. So like the hate that it gets later almost doesn't seem justifiable, because that same, and even look, we've had Seth Green on our podcast. When we had Seth Green on, he said Jar Jar is to his generation what C-3PO was. So like he said the parents hated watching 3PO when he was annoying and babbling on and on and on, where Jar Jar's that same character, you know, in the bongo. He's like super annoying. Like, I don't care. Yeah. He is so annoying. And he doesn't stop talking. And then Qui-Gon calms him down. But that's the point of him. That movie would be way too serious if Jar Jar was not in it. Oh, really, it's a serious movie.
It's very serious, and maybe because of the energy of Qui-Gon, it's slightly dour. You know, it's and I agree with that. And you're both talking about things that you know. Again, Jerry, you're at the sweet spot of George Lucas's thing, but also Scotty, you're hitting it. I want to do a expanded documentary on the Phantom Menace. Let's bring in Rick McCallum to chomp some gum. But I want George in the edit bay. With the Eopie fart moment. And I want George just to be like, kids are going to love this. And then smash cut to 5-year-old Scotty just going, hey, yeah.
It's amazing.
He said Piosa. Like, it's part of the genius of George. And I guess discuss a little bit as someone who was about 22, 23 when I saw it. Yeah, it offended my sensibilities in a way. And I think a lot of that is the memories of Star Wars fade from when you first discovered it. And I remember being in the theater for Return of the Jedi and just dying and telling my friends at school at Monday, oh my God, this guy called Boba Fett flies into the Sarlacc pit and it burps. And you guys got to see it. It wasn't like, oh yeah, it's really cool. It's a tale of how to throw down your lightsaber in an era where steroids and big oversized heroes are the day. George has chosen to fight violence with No, I'm like, dude, it burped. And that's kind of your ticket to the show in a lot of ways. And so Jar Jar represents that. But for my generation, yeah, I mean, as I always say, I quote my buddy Adam Witt for the Movie Guys a lot. He always says, our generation, the first chance we got, we tried to destroy Star Wars for the next generation in 1999. We tried to do that. We tried to stamp out the fire, and it was very selfish. And even though you can look at Jar Jar, there's some moments with Jar Jar that aren't necessarily my favorite from Phantom Menace, but I've not only have I let it go over the years, you just realize this isn't all about you. And Jar Jar represents a powerful theme. We'll discuss all that later. But yeah, looking back, it was just this false sense of not my Star Wars. And George was happy to push past that. And I'm glad for your sake, Scotty, and all of us that he did.
Yeah, I agree. And so when you saw it originally, did you leave like, I don't know about that, dude? Or did you leave like loving the Phantom Menace? I really don't know.
My journey was I liked a lot of it. There's so much to like, and there was a little bit of not what I expected. Jar Jar wasn't at the forefront of that in my brain at the time. Like there was some things again, like it squeezed me, stands out. But you talk about the scene in the bongo. He's annoying, almost part of the point, but that also delivers one of my favorite Star Wars lines of all time, which is, "Oh, Maxie, big the Force is." Like, I love that line.
Yes,
and I loved it then. I loved it now. But Jar Jar was like there, but it was like he became almost the poster Gungan for the entire conversation around Phantom Menace while I was trying to process the rest. But I this is why I'm fascinated, Gerry, by your tale. Here I am, about 10 years older or so. And one of my friends who was a history major explained a lot of just the real world history that George had put into this film. And I was fascinated by that. And I kept telling people about it, but then no one wanted to hear. They just wanted to hack on it. And that kind of caused me to go, oh, I guess we don't like this. We, a collective, we don't like this. And they're right, I'm wrong. And Gerry, it seems like you're hanging out, you go upstairs to the projectionist area. They got a cigarette and like a switchblade. Hey, kid, you want to watch a movie? You want to get my theories on Star Wars? Like you ran into that yourself.
Yeah, no, I mean, there was like this like balcony too, just off of the thing. We would sit out there. And most of them would smoke, and I would just sit there, just basking in the aura, and just like, I guess stewing. I guess I was stewing like a little innocent teabag in all the hate,
stewing in film punditry hatred.
Yeah. And again, like, it was just. It was one of those things where it was just like, like, I wish that I hadn't hid my enjoyment of it for so long. You know what I mean? Because I was just like, you want to be accepted. You want to like see, you want to be a part of this crew and stuff. And but yeah, no, I mean, there's just like there's just too much to love about. I mean, for the Phantom Menace as a whole, but I mean, even Jar Jar, again, like you're saying, like you love him or hate him, he is. He serves a purpose in the story.
He changed everything. Like, if you really want to talk about it, we wouldn't have. I know, of course, that's why we're here. But like, he literally changed everything. It's just so fascinating, and most people do not realize the actual impact of Jar Jar on every film that followed, especially Star Wars films. But like, you could think of any huge franchise movie.
Fellowship of the Ring, right after it was
literally
Jar Jar walked. If I can borrow an internet phrase, Jar Jar walked so Gollum could, creepily crawl across the screen.
Fish. Yes, exactly.
And bang fish against rocks.
No, that is a big part of it, and I know in the most, I think, zen and centered and polite ways, Ahmed Best has made that a key part of his current journey, I think, with Jar Jar, where he's not here to take away anything from Andy Serkis. He's not here to, say, look at me, but he was forgotten in the conversation. Right. The team behind it, I've heard him speak on it. He is always quick to say, me and the team. ILM, they broke ground. George himself, and they had tried other ways. As we know, the beginning, the Great Doc, which is still, I think, one of my favorite Star Wars. It might be my favorite Star Wars doc.
It is our favorite.
Really good.
It's so good. It's such a time capsule piece as well. But they tried. Let's do a practical. Sure, George pushed the envelope, and I'd be up for a special edition where they could even fix it up even more with more today's technology. That's a different conversation, but groundbreaking there. We can come back to that, but Scotty, at 5, growing up, you're not thinking about the groundbreaking aspect of it. You're just thinking about this character and movie you love. When you start getting a little older and running into old cusses like me and Gerry, hiding our love and not fighting for it, but the actual cusses out there. What did that do to you and your love of this film, being slightly younger?
Just to give more context too, because by the time I was in high school, YouTube had actually just boomed into popularity, and there was already some early Star Wars YouTubers and early Star Wars shows. And I'm not going to say any names just because it's there's no point in doing it, but I will say that those kind of things never influenced my perspective on the character, because I always looked at this character and like, what harm is this character doing? It'd be one thing if this character was a narrative nightmare and like truly hinder the story, but all he is just like that Shakespearean, like, I don't know, he's just like this thing in the background that's there and is funny, and you know, it's not meant to take up the whole scene, but then he serves a greater purpose. He goes from being this goofy moron to being the Bombad general. Like he literally becomes a general of this war that I don't believe wins, but if it wasn't for him and that ground assault, then the Battle of Theed wouldn't have been successful. Then also the air battle would have been successful. That this character really is just a very interesting slice of who George is too, because it is the whimsy. It is all the things that we like about the original movies that then personify themselves in a single character. It's all the goofiness that you can use to your, I guess, to benefit the story. I don't know. As I got older, Ken, as I got older, I never disliked the character. I had people that certainly did around me, but at no point did it ever become a character I was like, I don't get him either. He always kind of made sense.
One of the things I love that you said there, and transitioning a little bit to the bigger weight of the character. Yeah, I know what happens later on, and George pins, a big moment on him. I don't even think maliciously. I just think that was a part of the Palpatine story. But focusing on Jar Jar and the Phantom Menace, what you said, Scotty, I really love. He's not narratively messy. He's quite important to the story. The thematic reason that I always go to is that everyone matters. This is a big Star Wars thing. Yes. This is Leia looking at the Ewoks as allies, not enemies. This is not looking down on them. This is Jar Jar is. Jar Jar and Padme are the bridge between two cultures who are apart. A lot of questionable history about the Naboo showing up, about the humans above, and the Gungans down below. They're the bridge. They are looked down upon. They are treated second class, if they're treated at all. And he shows up and is, as Qui-Gon doesn't love him right away. He's annoyed. He kind of tells him to shut up. But the Force has put this character with him on the journey, and everyone has a place in the story, and that's big for me. And that's why I love some big moments we can discuss later. But Gerry, what your thoughts on just Jar Jar, the theme?
Well, the theme, and I mean, I love how you're saying that he annoys the characters even in the movie and stuff like that. Like, I mean, Qui-Gon straight up asks him if he's brainless, which is quite rude if you think about it. It's Qui-Gon's quite rude.
I speak.
Qui-Gon's focused. Things are going on,
Exactly. There's a lot going on around there for sure. But Jar Jar's just characters like Jar Jar, are just like, and the Ewoks and things like that. It's a good tool to teach kids not to underestimate anybody.
Yeah. Droids as well.
Book by its cover. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Never underestimate a droid. Absolutely. That's it. In fact, I was just watching Return of the Jedi this weekend with my kiddo and stuff. We're just talking about like how, and the Empire thinks they're going to win because it's this small little band of people. They've got the jump on them, and then they don't expect these tiny flea-bitten teddy bears to do anything. And then they turn around and they end up like helping overthrow, like the Emperor dies at that battle because the Ewoks help turn. It's because the Ewoks turned the tide. Yes. And stuff, because they made friends and stuff. And that's a good lesson for kids to learn. And Jar Jar's the same kind of lesson. the Gungan army and stuff at the end to help liberate Naboo and stuff like that. And so just like the theme of just don't judge a book by its cover. Don't look at someone and just go, you know what? I just I don't think there's any value in that person. I don't think that person holds any, anything of value. And it's just a great lesson. And I think George absolutely masterfully does it with Jar Jar.
And a little bit later on in the Clone Wars series, especially the first season, with Kevin Rubio's partially penned script, you have it's Jar Jar the Fool, but it's using comedy with great purpose. We have those episodes here in ForceCenter. If anyone wants to take a deeper dive on the Clone Wars report, we dive in that season 1 stuff, and it's actually some of my favorite Jar Jar stuff when you really break down into the themes of it all. So while you're laughing, Scotty, at the farts, there's some good stuff going beyond that.
Farts are deep. Those are deep farts, man.
Deep farts. In a movie, The Phantom Menace, that is about a symbiotic relationship that we are all affected. And again, that's why Jar Jar's the linchpin to that. And just like we can tie Palpatine's demise at the end of Return of the Jedi to Wicket, we can also connect a lot to Jar Jar, like you said, Scotty. Some of your, I want to go to some of your favorite moments here. We can talk about our own journeys again and spend a lot of time on that. And I'm discussing some of that, but favorite moments that stand out.
Okay, I have a great one that no one ever talks about, Ken.
Okay.
So I will say I am privileged to say that I watched The Phantom Menace in theaters 9 times when they had their re-screening of it from May the 4th until like early June or maybe late
this year.
May.
Oh wow!
So I saw it 9 times because it is my favorite Star Wars movie. It is the one that speaks the most to me emotionally and philosophically. And the part that always gets me that I never really felt the impact of is when Padme's looking out the window after she meets with the is it right before she meets with the the soon to be Supreme Chancellor?
Yeah.
And she's talking to Jar Jar's like, I don't know what we're gonna do. And he's like, well, we used to have grand army. And the things turning in her like, oh my God, this could change everything. These people that we thought were less than us, like you said earlier, are now the ones that are going to save us. And the Senate won't listen to us. Obviously the soon to be Supreme Chancellor, he knows where the Phantom Menace himself knows that this is all part of his attack. At no point does the Gungans serve a better purpose in this moment right here. And it's amazing because it plays out so beautifully, them looking at the sun setting, and then it cuts to Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon at the temple, and they're looking at the sunset. I don't know, George and his sunsets really, he gets it.
Phantom Menace is a beautiful film. I love that moment. We actually have an essay on it here on ForceCenter, Jar Jar and the Queen. It is one of my favorite moments in Star Wars, without a doubt. It ties thematically to it all, but I love just getting in story, too. I agree, Palpatine's the Phantom Menace of it all. He's always got a contingency plan. He's always got things going on. So even if he takes a loss in a moment, and I think he does, I think Padme going back to Naboo is maybe part of his plan, but there's a little quick flash of a crack in the facade.
Yes.
Palpatine, I always read it as that, but he's always going to be like, okay, yeah, this is good. Plus he's connected to, Maxi Big the Force is. I'm sure he's trying to look ahead. But that's Padme, who's always his biggest rival. That's why he's dead set on trying to remove her from this situation. She's going to make this turn. But what it speaks to, Gerry, I want your thoughts on this moment too, of course, before we get to some of yours, but the moment was set up to be received poorly by the South Park boys, who I've got nothing against. I've enjoyed them over the years, but they had picked up on that you said people are going to die moment. You said people are going to die, and they had put it in I think even the film or the trailer film. I can't even remember. And that turned the scene right away. It was like, for my generation, it's like, let's be snarky about this scene.
Exactly.
And I think that caused an entire generation to miss the point of what was going on here. It's a powerful moment. It's a powerful social moment. It's a powerful political moment. It isn't just that Padme's got to see the value in Jar Jar. She does have to humble. It is an owning of the sins of the generations before her on Naboo. It is seeing them for what they are, which she does see. Padme, the handmaiden, is so kind to Jar Jar when she meets him on the ship, right? The whole, I had a brisky morning munchie, which is another great Star Wars line, by the way. That's Padme, not unlike Rey as we see with BB-8 and immediately kind of, taking care of people and wanting to help people. Padme sees Jar Jar as an equal being in that moment. And that leads to her recognizing that, but having to come together with the Gungans. It's a big, powerful moment for me. I absolutely love it. So that's my rant on it. Gerry, yours.
So my rant on this, actually, no, I love the earnestness in it is really good. But I just really think that I don't. Oh man. Sorry.
Do you want a big Jar Jar hug? Do you want a big Jar Jar hug?
I need a big Jar Jar hug. No. I'm stuck on brisky morning munchie. Unfortunately,
it's good. No, that's another great moment,
which is great. Well, but no. So if there's one thing that is not relevant anymore that we don't need to learn about, it's about the sins of the past of our forefathers and things like that, and how we treat other people. And it's just I mean you guys have covered most of it. Just like that is a perennial. It's a perennial thing to show compassion to everyone despite their background and stuff like that. It's just it's that thing. It's the stuff that George is really trying to get into kids' heads.
Yeah.
Stuff that, again, like you're saying, the pundits and everything are trying to get everyone to, look at the street, look at the scene.
Yeah. And I want to hear some of your favorite moments here too. But final thought on that for me, like it is also, I'm glad you highlighted it, Scotty, of not just the moment, but the actual lines, the delivery. I think in a moment that became in pop culture, is that the used to said people going to die moment? I think beyond that is some great Ahmed Best performances in those lines of hitting a somber, serious note and tone for the fool of the film. I think it's another thing that makes me love the scene. But Gerry, what are some of your moments here as we discuss our favorite Jar Jar moments?
So I like any moment in the Clone Wars where they put Jar Jar back with Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme.
Oh my God,
as a
yes.
group. Yeah. Any of those. Mainly, and I love the arc, the Mon Cala arc, right? Yes. Where they're like Riff Tamsin is, trying to mess things up with shark people. By the way, I want a live action Riff Tamsin. Or so I want a live action Shark Man. That's what I want. Maybe we're finally getting Wolfman back.
Yeah,
and stuff.
We'll get there.
Maybe we'll get that back.
I believe Riff Tamsin Jr. is going to be in Andor season 2. That Gilroy was like, give me the shark head. Give me the shark head guy.
Riff Tamsin. Yeah, I love it. No, I just like particularly too like the moment where like Padme, like Riff, I think it's Riff, bites her helmet, right? And it's starting to fill up. And Jar Jar just like spits on her helmet to save her. Just weird moments like that where it's like it's gross, but it's also like sweet because he's like, I'm trying to protect you. You're my friend and stuff like that. Just, like Jar Jar is very brave. There's the whole, I think I got this from believe it or not, a coloring book. But how Jar Jar is like, he seems, he's very clumsy and stuff, but in his own way, he's very brave.
Yeah.
Because even though you can tell and that's real bravery too, is bravery isn't not being scared. Bravery is, just being scared and doing it anyway. And that's Jar Jar really, I think, personifies that in a lot of this. I mean, and doesn't he get to lead the Gungan army in that Mon Cala arc as well? Doesn't he bring they at least go get the Gungan army and they get they get to come out and take a bow again.
He's a Bombad general. No, I'm glad you mentioned a lot of the Clone Wars stuff. I mean, without a doubt, the buddy cop picture of him and Mace Windu, Jar Jar,
Bombad Jedi. How we got our name. That is literally how we got our name. That was the episode.
Let's not forget, in a franchise that can be sometimes chased, Jar Jar got it on and had, he and Queen Julia spent some quality time together. So that's another reason I love Jar Jar.
My queen.
Also, I love how Indiana Jones that arc feels.
So
got a lot of Indiana Jones like DNA in it. But I also what I love about that is by the end of that you have Mace takes our journey, or most people's journey, the older person's journey with Jar Jar.
Yes,
With
dude.
me and you, Ken, because he goes, he's very annoyed at first, and then he's finally, by the end, there's a line. I think it might be the last line. You know what, Jar Jar? I think I'm starting to understand you.
Yes.
And that awesome?
I love that line because the whole theme of Jar Jar is just taking the time to kind of come beside someone and get to know them and get to know where they come from, right?
Yeah.
You know, like not just taking them on that face value. And it's just, yeah.
I can't remember if we discussed it on that episode of Clone Wars Report when Joseph and I went into it, but like, we love that arc. I've come around on it by just didn't dislike it. Just said it's such a weird season of Clone Wars, and there's big giant scenes, and you have this kind of thing. This 2 or 3 episode arc with Jar Jar and Mace. But I love what you're talking about, Jerry, at the end. It is almost like as if George said, "Hey, who's the one character that embodies the generation that tried to destroy this for the kids? Oh, Mace. Okay, yeah. Pair him with Jar Jar. Put them together, and
Perfect.
I need him to come around
Dave.
on it."
Exactly.
It's the best. That team up was just like it was come up with in like a laboratory or something.
Yes.
It's absolutely
This is also one thing to say too, is like, I'm glad George never truly got scared to use him again, which sometimes the creators do get nervous. So maybe I overused it. Maybe it's something that
I think it's fair. Maybe Jerry, you were going there, but 2 and 3 had that energy, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking I'm fine with it in general. You know, where would Jar Jar fit into the Revenge of the Sith story? I don't know. I think he could have if you wanted it to. Maybe you could have spent more time with the Delegate of 2000 and all that kind of stuff, and he could have been part of that. I would have loved to have seen Jar Jar as one of the grandfathers of the rebellion. But I get it. But overall, yeah, I think especially with Clone Wars, I think that's where I really, really look at George in that series and tip my cap to someone who I always tip my cap to, but in a little bit more passionate way, because even a grumpy guy like me came around on Meeber Gascon, came around on Riff Tamsin to a point, but definitely came around on Jar Jar because and Ahmed eventually coming back to the role too. I think it's overlooked in Ahmed's story when you're talking about him and his relationship to Star Wars. He needed to leave at one point, probably wanted to step away, but then does find it the right time to come back to that character. And Ahmed never backs down from that character either.
No. Well, look, he said, so not to keep bringing it up, but when we talked to Seth Green, who made Robot Chicken, his first return back as Jar Jar was for Robot Chicken in 2008. That's right. That was his first, after being disassociated for like 4 or 5 years. He came back and did the whole, Vader, Jar Jar
Annie thing, which is one of the best sketches on of the Star Wars one. Yeah. Absolutely.
Like, that's right. It's a beautiful story of someone who had a true personal struggle that none of us ever knew until about 4 or 5 years ago, that that this role had tanked him emotionally because of the fan response. It's such a dark thing to talk about, but I mean, this is that character. That character was very polarizing, and I think for the wrong reasons. And now we're doing an episode about why we left it. Like, it's pretty incredible that we've came this far.
It is. Here is this wonderfully young, talented, strong black man gets this role to change his life, and it cost him everything for a while. It nearly cost him his life, right? He's been so open with that story once it came out, and that affected me. Again, and I was not someone who went around bashing Jar Jar. I bashed other things but the prequels before I kind of wised up. But even then, it just was like the guilt and the understanding of the bigger picture, which is how why I should say we come here to ForceCenter to really engage with what's presented and deal with things, even the things that do sometimes make me grumpy. Like you said up top, Scotty, what you guys do on Bombad. Like, hey, let's engage with what we love. Much more powerful, because I think all three of us are talking about being part of an era in fandom. It's still strong. Don't get me wrong. It's still very strong, but it was unfettered. It had unfettered power, an unlimited power, dare I say, to just destroy people's love for things and to help destroy careers in a roundabout sort of way. And I'm glad Ahmed is here and part of the galaxy in a big way. And in 2019 Chicago, side note, you boys were both there, right?
Yes, we were both. Yep, we were all three there.
I was on the floor. I was on the floor whenever he came out on the Star Wars out on the Star Wars show live stage, right?
Yeah.
I believe I was with a friend of Scotty and I's, another Scotty actually. We were walking around the booths and everything, and they said, "Welcome to the Star Wars show live stage, Ahmed Best." And there was like just a magnetic pull. Everyone in the stalls where we were everyone just started swarming to the middle, clapping. It was very cinematic in a way, just because it was, you have like all this, and it was right before this when I think he had made that post about,
Yes, it
like
was.
in the
It was
bridge
right
with his
before.
son, about how, which again,
Yep.
and I was a new father at the time, and of course that shit, sorry, hits you even harder at that time, and so like, I mean, it just felt like, the ending of the movie and stuff, where the character's gone through all these like struggles and everything. I don't mean to like, lower his pain and stuff, or lesser his pain in a way, but I mean, like, it felt like that moment of, we love you, like, this is you, this is what you should have been getting this whole time. This acceptance, this love for adding to a galaxy that everyone in this room is absolutely, probably unhealthily in love with.
Yes,
so,
absolutely. Look, and this is why we titled it Jar Jar Binks is Why We Love Star Wars. There are people, Scotty, it doesn't seem like you're too far off from being one of those kids that love Star Wars because of him first. And I loved, like you said, Gerry, nothing is to diminish the journey, but I think, having never met Ahmed, I would be honored to just run into him and shake his hand one day. But like, he is such a wonderful, insightful, fiercely intelligent human being with this big heart. I think he's got the scars, and he knows how to use them in the way that just makes him stronger right now. But I'm not saying it doesn't. And they didn't affect him, and clearly did over the years. But you know what I mean? Like, he's this well-rounded 360-degree human back. He isn't just back going, oh, this is great. He's back going, oh, great. Have I got some lessons for you all?
It's that, and he's a great musician, and he's also showed back up in Mando season 3. I mean, that's the one huge thing is like his return wasn't already an emotional return for us, but there was that morning, and this is it's still when it aired at 4 a.m. I was sobbing.
Yeah.
When they cut to what a
Same.
better person to save Grogu from the Jedi Temple than of Kelleran Beck, of course, but Ahmed Best, and like, get him to Kelleran, and I'm like, where do I know that name from? And then it cuts to, it's gonna be okay, and I'm actually getting choked up talking about it. That was so awesome because it showed that we all returned and that you are welcome back, and you are not only the one that you saved the most important thing Disney has done since they got Star Wars, Grogu. Yeah. I mean it. Like that really gets me worked up. Yeah. You save Baby Yoda from the Purge. Like, oh God, it gets me worked up.
I'm with you. It's an emotional moment. I also want to give credit to Scott Bromley and the team at Jedi Temple Challenge that were like, hey, we got someone to play a role. And Kelleran Beck going from a wonderful, engaging, charming game show to the guy that saves Grogu, like you said. I'm with you. That it's not a Jar Jar moment, but it might as well be, right? Because the door opens, and I'm with you. I remember, of course, I'm on the West Coast, the best time zone, so it was a little earlier in my night. But the door opens, and I'm just thinking, they goddamn did it.
They did. I called him at 4 a.m. Literally, we were both like teary-eyed on the phone, FaceTiming, talking about
my neighbors friggin' hate me whenever like there's a new season of The Mandalorian out, because I'm up at like 5 a.m, like just like stomping around, like just like screaming, no, they did not. Yeah,
Carl Weathers, man.
Yeah, rest in peace, Carl Weathers.
Rest in peace.
I wanted. We're jumping around here, and I want to hear some more moments. I have something moment I want to share too, but we got a movie coming up here. We got Mandalorian and Grogu, and I think it's going to be fun, pulpy adventure. But what hangs over the story for me is the rest of Grogu's journey. Sometimes that's just answers, and maybe we don't need the answers. But I am telling you,
I know where you're going.
He took him to Jar Jar. You cannot tell me he didn't.
That is going to be one of the greatest reveals of all time. The theater will go berserk.
It will. They have to. Like, I almost have to. The speculate responsibly thing that ForceCenter put out into the world was always a reminder for me, Joseph and Jennifer, just to be like, hey, don't hold on to our, if Luke doesn't run down the hill with the streets, engage with the story. We sound like, we're in a library talking to you. I'm in a pub right now in my heart for Grogu to go to Jar Jar's arms. Like, Dave.
They got into a Naboo cruiser.
They got into a Naboo
cruiser for corn's sakes. Come on.
Look, Dave, man, I know you got that cowboy hat on, and I know you're a Pittsburgh Yinzer. I'm going to just lean into all of the good traits you have there. Just a good old boy from Pittsburgh. This has got to be what you put in John's heart. Also, because Favreau sitting at the Chicago Mandalorian panel and being like, yeah, I didn't really like the prequels, but Dave's working on me. To the N1 Starfighter, to all these things that show up in the Mandalorian, to a Naboo cruiser. I'm telling you, boys, you got talk me off the ledge, right? Talk me off the ledge. It has to happen.
I would never. No. This is.
We're all three on the damn ledge, kid. We're all on the ledge with you. We are leaning into the street. We're ready to go. We're ready to go with you.
And perfect.
It was already. Your neighbors were going to already pay the price if it happened in season 4 of Mando. But you're right, Scotty.
Yes.
If it's in a theater, that's going to be next level.
It's going to be, and then look, I would literally, if there was any hint that actually is happening, I would fly up to Michigan to watch it with Jerry. Like I would pay whatever it costs to experience the return of our boy on screen in front of people with him. It would be bliss.
I'm telling you. Well, we're talking about a moment that might not happen. Let me try to catch my breath. But Scotty, some other moments or reasons that you love Jar Jar Binks and why he helps your love of Star Wars grow even more.
Okay, so there's some symbolism here, and I'm not going to try to divert the conversation, but the whole portion of Jar Jar and, of course, the Naboo, and the Gungans in Naboo is the idea of symbiosis, which you mentioned beautifully earlier. But it's to show that when you're out of balance with your own world, that the things around you, internally and externally are also going to be completely out of balance. Yeah. And there's a reason why the Trade Federation can't take over. It's because there is that weak spot where they could have defended them had they landed in the forest if they were on the same page, or vice versa. They could have found some way to not have the blockade happen. But you look at the symbolism of that, midichlorians, the living and the cosmic force, all of these things are all intricately tied together because there is a thematic representation, there's a physical representation, and then there is a new introduction of these things in the Phantom Menace that are based within yourselves. So if you're internally out of whack, your external will also be out of whack. It's just it's such a complex theme, and Jar Jar is the embodiment of that stuff. Just like when the Phantom Menace came out and people struggle with Jar Jar, they also struggle with midichlorians because it was two really big concepts that people thought they understood but didn't give it the 10 minutes that it needed to be understood. It's all super crucial to how the whole prequel trilogy is set up, because if you're not aware of what's going on around you, then you don't know what's going on within you. That's why, be mindful of the living force is one of the greatest lines, and Qui-Gon's opening line. It is his line.
Phantom Menace is a deeply rich philosophical movie. I would argue all Star Wars films are, but that's one of the reasons I return to Phantom Menace often. And, I didn't, tell you boys beforehand, but today's episode of ForceCenter is not sponsored by BetterHelp. It's sponsored by Scotty's midichlorian essay that he has up on Bombadcast. Bombad, link going on. But you're so right. It is part of the media discussion landscape that I think might always be a problem because, look, some people just buy a ticket, want to see a movie, and pew, pew, pew is the extent of it. And I have those moments, too. Don't anyone get me wrong. But, yeah, what you're talking about, Jar Jar is a midichlorian himself, in a way.
Yes.
Dare I say. And those are two big things in a film that was unique and stayed true to itself, including the format. That's why, a lot of times people who enjoy pizza rolls also want to criticize the film itself and the structure, and Anakin's not introduced to late in the film. Anakin's not the main character. Qui-Gon's the main character. This is Qui-Gon's story. that leads to Anakin's story. And Jar Jar and midichlorians be part of it. Midichlorians and Jar Jar are the two things that everyone just eye rolled and washed their hands of it and did not analyze at any point over the last 25 years for some folks. But thankfully, Scotty, you did.
You're welcome. I did all the work for you.
Yeah. Gerry, we went big there. Jar Jar is a midichlorian. All right.
Right. No, I follow.
Any other reasons? Yeah. Any other reasons you love Jar Jar? Or do you want to expand on that?
Well, just with the midichlorian and thing and all that. I mean, that was another thing that I also never really understood why people didn't get, because it was like people were saying, "Oh, so the Force is just how much of these things you have in your blood." And I'm like, no, it's they say in the movie it's how many. Now we're just like nitpicking people's understanding of midichlorians, which is just what me and Scotty do. Is just go watch the Bombadcast.
That's what we do.
But
watch the Bombadcast.
But I mean, like, it's like no, they clearly say it channels it, like it's just what helps you. They channel the Force and things. Anyway, it's a whole thing. But no,
it's a thing.
No, I just I can't think of anything with Jar Jar being a midichlorian, but I'm going to say that another one of my favorite lines, and this is, again, another reason why we both came to Bombad and stuff because of a few different reasons and stuff. But I mean, like, I've always loved after they drop down to save the queen from the droids, and, Jar Jar finally drops down and he goes, "Whoa, you guys Bombad." That line has been burned into my very soul since I saw that as a 12-year-old lad.
Really?
Back in 1999. It's just always been one of those things where I'm like, "Oh, you guys Bombad," and stuff like that, because I mean, for one thing, that sequence is great. Like the choreography and everything is just like, I love the droids that get pushed back and go, "Urk," like, or whatever. Like, that's one of my favorite. I love that sound. I love that sound.
I'm going to go on a limb and say sonic depth charges from Boba Fett and Jango's ship to the next biggest sound in Star Wars is it's the best.
Listen, just another ADHD sidebar on my part, but that whenever they used a seismic charge on Book of Boba Fett, I was at home watching with my family at the time. I was home for Thanksgiving, and that happened, and I was I was standing in front of my parents. Already have it's like a Michael Scott television. It's like so tiny and it's high, and so I was up with my hands. I was going, no, they did it. No, they didn't. It was kind of like but it was my family, wondering if they were going to have to check me in, for overnight care that night because of that sound. And so, so it's just like those sounds. It's that line delivery. It's just it's
the little things.
I don't know, man. It's just everything. Like, he's just
it's his presence
whole
there.
Vibe of Jar Jar in that scene. I just love that it's Jar Jar in a nutshell. It's he is going to be there. He's going to jump. He's going to jump down with the Jedi. He's like, he's not going to stay up on the bridge. He's like, all right, here we go. I guess we're going down here with the guys with the guns. Here we go. And he gets stuck. And I mean, it's just it's comedy of errors, but it's a guy. He's still brave. He's still there, man. He's jumping in with the Jedi.
It's the pile you have in the bar fight that's like, all right, let's do it. I can't do it. Yeah. But I love too, Gerry, that you're paying attention to Jar Jar enough in the theater that moment stands out to you. And by the way, I think we need to take the seismic charges. We need to do a remix, a dance remix of the seismic charges, just going right into the droids going.
I will do it. I will do that.
Only if we can add the EOP part, just as a bridge or something. Yep.
There we go. ForceCenter, one of the more esteemed, proper podcasts, and here I am going. Let's do it. But this is what Jar Jar brings out in me, and I love him so much. One of my favorite moments, boys, that I want to get to is the moment that really sealed my turnabout and growth on the character. I had already by this point been into the idea of realizing the harm that was caused to Ahmed and Jake Lloyd and a lot of others. But particularly on Ahmed, I'd been at that point, but I still had a little bit of that. I had to do the but thing with the character, right? Oh, I like Ahmed best, and but Jar Jar isn't my favorite. And after a while, who cares, right? And that's just an obstacle you put in front of yourself. And you don't have to love every character as much as other people. That's kind of part of the point of this. It's a wide galaxy. We love, so many background weirdos and all that thing. But I really what turned around the Jar Jar as a character and really just nestled him into my heart forever was Chuck Wendig's epilogue moment with him, the little interludes he would write in the Aftermath series. And he had what I call Jar Jar's epilogue, and it is the scene in Naboo with Jar Jar talking to a refugee from, the Galactic Civil War. I wrote about it in Why We Love Star Wars, Jar Jar the Clown, the epilogue of Jar Jar Binks. It was a moment I read alone, in my apartment at the time, and I finished, 2-3 pages. And I was silent in a soul-dropping moment because much like Mace Windu, and that was more of an action Indiana Jones pulpy episodes, episode arc and couple episode arc in the Clone Wars. This just spoke to the truth of what my generation did to Jar Jar. And here he was, in story, he had been neglected and blamed. And this is a tip of the cap to some of the, maybe even the Sith Jar Jar stuff or him, giving Palpatine powers, being the one to kind of put that out there. And had everyone had turned their back on Jar Jar except for these kids. And he was there for these refugee kids lost, their souls lost in this war. And it was not even tear-inducing. It was like a silence had come over me. It meant that much to me to see Jar Jar as intended and to see his true effect. I don't mean we celebrate the silly and the profound here at ForceCenter, just as you both do at Bombad. So I don't mean to oversell it, but it was an important moment in my Star Wars fandom to maybe in a way take ownership over what I was a part of. In a snarky 20 years ago kind of way. It was big for me.
Yeah.
Well, look, the silence, the silent response is arguably more emotional than the crying response. The crying implies that you have some sort of emotional connection with that character that should make you upset. Mm-hmm. But the silence of like, wow, he just quantified this entire emotion or feeling around this character in a way that I never understood is the reason why this character exists, right? I mean, Is that essentially what it did? Yeah. Like because the whole story is that he's a court jester for a bunch of kids that are, products of war, right?
Yeah.
And
abandoned by war, yeah.
And he can be a goofy person and try to make them happy. But isn't it mentioned how he's kind of sad on the inside himself?
He's sad. He's totally sad. The galaxy has turned their back on him. The galaxy has. And the only thing left is his great purpose, his kids, and it is both uplifting and tremendously sad at the same time. Brutal, brutal.
Because I remember the day because I would listen to these audiobooks as they came out when working in the factory I was working at the time, and I was in this loud factory bawling my eyes out listening to this, and I think that got such bad press too. Because I feel like the what people pulled away from it was just like, oh, Jar Jar Binks gets to be everyone hates him in Star Wars too, and it's a sad I don't know if like y'all had that same vibe from all.
I remember that.
Every single article about it I saw was like, you missed the point.
You missed it again
for a second time.
But Ahmed takes ownership of that moment, and my pal Jamie Stangroom has formed a wonderful friendship with him over the years. And if you go to Jamie Stangroom's channel, the Geek End, he's got great interviews. He had some great ones with Ahmed, but some of those big revelations come out of it. But he had this moment where Ahmed read the interlude from Wendig's book. He read it on his YouTube interview, and it drives the point home. If you've never watched it, I'll link to it. It is great, and it drives the point home. And yes, missed again, but also remember, that's part of the media discussion world. That I get it. I'm forever grumpy, but sometimes it's a tidal wave that we're up against. But even when Jason Fry's Last Jedi novelization came out, and it begins with this wonderful, powerful kind of alternate reality. If Luke had never answered the call, and here he is, locked away in Octo, trying to not answer the call, and in it's like, oh, Luke had a wife, and it's like all the Screen Rant articles were that. Book reveals Luke had a wife. No, it was but. Going to the Jar Jar point, Jerry. Yeah, it's like it was lost in the shuffle too, but it remains one of my favorite moments.
So one thing I want to say too, to also wrap this up and this idea of it up, was that everyone, when the Keller and Beck episode came out, now this ties into it, everyone kept saying that Jar Jar has been redeemed. And I hated that phrase. We talked about that on our show.
Yeah.
Yes.
That character did not need a redemption.
Love that. Great way to end this.
At no point needed to be redeemed.
Yes.
The actor didn't need to be redeemed.
Yeah.
It's because you misunderstood the assignment.
Well, no.
Yes.
You need to be redeemed. We need to be redeemed. It's not Jar Jar. It's not Ahmed. It's not George even. It's us. We are the ones who we need that.
We need that realization.
I love to start. I want to talk about the legacy of Jar Jar as we start to close here, but pulling back the curtain a little bit, I had been for years kicking around a documentary pitch about Jar Jar Binks, like a documentary, maybe a docuseries, because those became popular. And the pitch for it was called Forgiving Jar Jar.
Wow.
And I had exactly what you boys thought. At some point, it was like George turning to Larry Kasdan and going, "Jedi don't get revenge. It's now Return of the Jedi." I went, how dare I? How dare I call it Forgiving Jar Jar? Jar Jar did nothing. Jar Jar did nothing. We need it. We're the forgiving. We're the ones that need forgiveness. We are Padme looking to him going, I need you, but also I need you to allow me to work with you. It's this is your choice. This is your forgiveness to give. And that was part of the journey too with Jar Jar too, of for every silly little moment that I didn't love right away, like Excuse Me, it was Jar Jar did nothing to me. I did everything to him and to Ahmed and to the fans that loved them. So I really agree with you on that point. On that note, I've brought the room down. Let's talk about
it's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm gonna just need to take a break to go powder my nose real quick, just from all the tears, if you don't mind.
We're here to discuss why we love Jar Jar Binks, why we love him in Star Wars, why he makes our love of Star Wars grow. And now, 25 years on, I do want to close as we look at the legacy of Jar Jar. One of my favorite moments, also from 2019, is seeing Ahmed on Instagram, I believe it was, had been in Chicago, had arrived. The panel was on, I think, Monday for the 20th anniversary retrospective panel. But he'd been in town for a bit and doing other things, clearly, like you said, being on the stage. And he'd posted this thing that he was walking down the street in Chicago, saw, I think it was a group of girls. One of them had a big, giant Jar Jar shirt on. And he had said, "Hey, nice shirt." And they just kind of blew it. And until there was that moment of like, wait a minute. And they took a photo. And that is one of my favorite moments. That truly, to me, is not Ahmed Best returning to Star Wars. It is Ahmed Best allowing the fandom to go, "You've been here all along." Damn, like, wow. There's many that left you, Ahmed, and many that left you, Jar Jar. But really, really, so many have been here all along. And Ahmed has said it. Hey, George was right. It just took 20 years. Little Scotty J-Ro was sitting there going, "This guy's great." And Ahmed might not have been able to feel that for a long time, might not have been able to hear that for a long time. The noise was loud. Pop culture noise is loud, but it was always there for him to have that moment and go, "Here it is. Here it is. I'm feeling what I've almost been waiting for, but have not been able to see." I love that, and that's part of his legacy. And I pitch it to you boys to start to take this home. Gerry, Jar Jar now, then, now, and forever. Your thoughts on Jar Jar?
Woo! Oh man, no pressure. No, I just like what we've been saying this whole time. I mean, just like the innocence and purity that exists in Star Wars is just Jar Jar is that incarnate. He's the representative of that, and just I mean, talking about again all the abuse that that Ahmed actually got, not just the character and things like that, and just to have that, like, so again, beautifully, but very just absolutely shatteringly in that interlude in the Aftermath books. I mean, you look at this character and you see someone who never gave up what they were, even though everyone else gave up on them. And that's still very powerful. And that's honestly a very powerful thing for the, not to get too real, in the day and age in which we live, is to not let all of the negativity, not to let the powers that be outside bring you down, but to not lose that spark inside of you, to not lose what makes you a light in this world. And I think that Jar Jar very much so is maybe the best Star Wars character for that.
Yeah.
Maybe the best representation in Star Wars of not letting anything put your fire out no matter what.
I love that. Well said. A ForceCenter, well said. But Scotty, we turn to you, a 5-year-old in a theater seat, munching on whatever candy and popcorn and soda you shouldn't have been allowed to have.
Look, my redemption moment was 20 years later whenever we were all at the panel together, the Phantom Menace 20th anniversary panel. And I'll never forget this. I don't want to get choked up again. But there was a woman in front of me that had a original Celebration shirt on. And I was looking at her like, man, she was there in May of 99. She was there when Dan Madsen, was the person that brought this thing to Colorado post, Columbine. Like this person in front of me is a diehard Phantom Menace fan because she was at all those panels in that rainy tent in the Colorado Air and Space Museum. I just I'm looking at her. They're playing, the beginning. What's it called? The Saga Begins.
It's the Saga Begins. Yeah.
Everyone's Ken. Were you at that panel? I don't know if you were at that panel.
I was at the 20th. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So everyone's kind of feeling this weird, like, oh my God, this movie is getting a redemption right here when it never deserved a redemption. But it felt like people finally got the movie. And then, of course, you had, Doug Chang walk out. You had all the Ian McDermott walk out. But when Ahmed Best walked out, that was, the whole room stood up and roared as if Kiss was starting their show. It was it really was the craziest thing. And everyone, he had to stand and wait for a second and man, I just finally you understand your impact, that's just, you don't see that ever. You don't see that ever. There's no other field where that is a thing. So athletes get it instantly. Musicians get it instantly. You name it. Every other teachers get it instantly. All the things that we do get it instantly, but this is maybe the one moment in movie history that no one got it until that moment. And it clicked, and he walked out, and you got to see him with the little hat on, and they showed the behind the scenes photos, and go back and watch that on YouTube when y'all get a second. You can feel that room shift and change, and that was the moment that was oh my God, I thank you. You know what I mean? Thank you, George. And he even mentions that is the first, that is, to my knowledge, I believe there's one Zoom call with a little kid class.
My favorite video.
This video of George is him in the Marriott, some weird hotel,
in the kitchen of an Italian restaurant or something.
It's so weird. He's sitting there and he goes, "Well, Jar Jar's my favorite character," and that's, you go, "Oh my God!" I get it now. This movie wasn't for us; it was for him, and we happen to fall in love with what he wanted to do. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
It was that moment, and to all the fans of the Phantom Menace, I love you. And that's how he ends the video. And you're like, that is me. Whereas for a long time, liking that movie, but you can look at the stupid machete order that cut out the movie from its existence. And you got to realize that movie is as important as A New Hope is. That movie is as important as Empire. It's arguably, to me, one of the most important. It sets up the whole journey, and Jar Jar is the beginning of that journey. And you watch that movie now, hopefully after listening to this, and I hope the point of this was to make you either feel a different way or to solidify your feeling on this character. Honestly.
No, well said. Yeah. No disrespect to anyone who, or even the man who created the machete order and everything. I got it. It's wrong. It's just wrong. Sorry. That's an opinion to have. It's an incorrect one because the film is so powerful, and Jar Jar is absolutely a key part of that. He goes beyond. The character's still going. I was actually going to end on what do you think of his chances of coming into the Mandalorian and Grogu film, but we already discussed it. But Anyways, that's it. We love Jar Jar Binks. We hope you love Jar Jar as well, and we'll certainly talk about him again here on the channel. But we've come to the end of the program. I cannot thank Gerry and Scotty enough for being the test cases for this new kind of conversation here on ForceCenter. We'll be doing from time to time. We have a lot more to get to, and oh yeah, I've got some guests lined up, and they've got things they want to talk about because they love them in Star Wars. But before I get on out of here and tell you where to find us at ForceCenter, Scotty, Gerry, put yourselves over. I got links below, but tell them where they can find you.
Well, we go live every Thursday at 8 p.m. on our YouTube channel. We also go live through our Facebook channel and Twitch as well. If you want to find us there, just look up The Bombadcast, Bombadcast. I almost forgot to spell it. But we go live every Thursday. We obviously are going to cover Skeleton Crew, but if you want to take a step back and look at everything else we covered, we've had some pretty good highlights in our 5 years of doing this show. We even have a Bombad funniest moments. If you really kind of want to understand our sense of humor, you can jump to that 2-hour mega montage that we have. But mega
montage is the best. We invented
probably
that
the
term,
best.
By the way.
Yes, it is absurd. It is absurd.
Yeah, we coined that.
We've had the privilege to have Ken on a handful of times. We've had other people, really good pillars in our community, come on as well. Alden Diaz has been several times. He actually covered the beginning with us, that documentary. Mm-hmm. We talked about for 2.5 hours.
What'd you say it like that, though? What'd you say pillars of the community and Alden Diaz?
Yeah, that's accurate.
Thing, man. That seems very... No, I'm joking, Alden. Joking.
But no, yeah, we go live every Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, 9 Eastern, and of course, that'd be 6 Pacific. But Gerry and I love hanging out. We love to see you in the live chat.
Absolutely. Follow them, friends. ForceCenter friends probably are aware of Bombad, but in case you aren't, and I hope there's actually a lot of people that aren't, because I think you are now, and I want you all to follow their adventures over there as well. Thank you again, guys, for swinging on in here. For us here at ForceCenter, you can find us on social media at ForceCenter Pod. We are having a lot of fun over on Blue Sky, as are a lot of people, so join us there. We're on Instagram, YouTube. Here, subscribe, like, hit the notification bell if you'd like. From time to time now, I've been going live vertically on YouTube, and that's kind of if I got a moment, I'll pop on and answer some questions, so you don't want to miss that. So subscribe and hit that notification bell. Because of that, you can get merch at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter, or down below at our fourth wall link. As a podcast, we are available everywhere. Just search and find us, and if we're not, just let us know. We'll try to get there. You can support us directly at patreon.com/ForceCenter. And you can support me at Ken Napzok. And if you'd like to get a copy of Why We Love Star Wars, we're 5 years out. I still have some copies to sell you. If you want a personalized copy, it's on my website. Again, KenNapzok.com. That's it. We'll see you next time here on ForceCenter.